So the EPA, and I'm talking about Trump's EPA because, you know, the old EPA was flawed here and there, but they fought for the planet and they fought for the people. But the Trump administration has come in and turned everything backwards. So what used to be the Environmental Protection Agency is now, how can I rape and pillage the environment to fill up my pocket and bank account agency under Trump's administration and Scott Pruitt and all the fossil fuel industry people that he has put into place in replacing the scientists who used to work for the EPA who actually cared about the planet and the people. So yeah, that's what's happened with the Trump administration. And if this was a Democrat, I'd be saying the same thing. So if you're a Republican and you're watching this and I sound like a crazy liberal, I don't give a shit who is president if they're destroying the environment and the agencies that protect the environment and which will in turn make people sick, cause war. I'm going to talk about it. So yeah, the EPA commissioned a coin. 2017 commemorative coin, disaster, congratulating disaster responders in how they responded to the hurricanes and the natural disasters, including Puerto Rico. Okay, so this is just for the EPA. We're not talking about in general how the United States responded to the devastation in Puerto Rico, because if they make a coin for that, I would have no words. This is just a commemorative coin congratulating the EPA on how they responded to this 2017's natural disasters, including Puerto Rico, in which there should not be a coin for that, because no one should be congratulated how they responded at all to Puerto Rico, or even in Texas, the way that doesn't deserve congratulations, and maybe people don't understand, but let me be specific. Okay, so let's just talk. I'm going to tell you the truth about how shitty the EPA did respond to the natural disasters, why there shouldn't be a coin, but let's talk about the coin real quick. The disaster responders are spending $8,500 on coins to congratulate its response, the EPA's response to the 2017 natural disasters, including hurricanes that ravaged Texas and Puerto Rico. The contract details show 1,750 coins, along with boxes, are to be delivered by the end of the month. The back of the coin should say, the back of the coin, this is what the creators were told. Creators, artists of the coin were told. Oh, I can't. I have to sneeze. We're told that the back of the coin should convey the sentiment that EPA staff from all across the country worked together to respond to the incidents from Puerto Rico to California. And the coin should include the phrase response excellence to the year 2017, and should say in capitals, protecting human health and environment all across America. Okay. All right. Now, I'm not a part of the EPA. I'm sure there are still fighters in there from the original EPA who care about the environment and who care about the planet. And I'm not aiming towards them at all. And good on you to stay in there, because when people from these agencies quit, I feel like we're losing the good guys, right? Because they're only being replaced by Trump's people. So I do feel like we've lost when I hear about people from the Environmental Protection Agency or other agencies who just quit under the Trump reign because they can't handle the corruption and don't want to be a part of it. I understand it, but I wish they would stick it out, because we need those good people in there. But anyways, in general, the EPA failed huge to respond to these national disasters. So let's just highlight a little bit how they failed. In Puerto Rico, we have a massive problem with the way the situation was handled by the EPA in regards to the water. This was the EPA's job, to make sure that in times of natural disasters that there was a policy put in place to protect the water supply of areas, and that there was a plan of action put into place that they would execute if there was a problem with the water. And there was a plan of action put into place that the EPA had for any natural disasters in Puerto Rico. But when waterborne illnesses did start showing up in Puerto Rico, the EPA did not follow through with those plans, and the water continued to be contaminated. People became sick. So the EPA failed. They did not take action. There were waterborne illnesses and widespread bacterial contamination. There were boil water advisories for the majority of the island, and reports that people were getting their drinking water from Superfund sites. Superfund sites are areas that have been, if you don't know, which I'm sure you do, have been shut down because the contamination level in the soil or the water is so high that the EPA deems it that people cannot live there because there's so much toxicity and pollution in that area. And so it is sectioned off as a Superfund site. So people in Puerto Rico were going to Superfund sites to get their water because those sites had not been properly locked down by the EPA because they weren't getting any water to their homes, and then they weren't being given any bottled water. People had no water. They had to go to the Superfund sites. And like I said, there were waterborne illnesses that were and still are present all over Puerto Rico that the EPA did nothing about. They did not address the drinking water quality, and water is life. So now they're making a commemorative coin, congratulating the excellence of the EPA when people in Puerto Rico were dying and are dying still because they don't have quality water. Wow. The lies. That is the thing that gets me the most about this. I mean, and politicians have always lied, but the lies this time during this administration are so blatant. And the fact that so many Americans just believe anything that they're fed, and we've just become a society of like ants marching, frightens me. So this is Eric Olson, a senior director at the Natural Resource Defense Council, said every state and territory is required to have an emergency drinking water plan in place for natural disasters. And obviously when the EPA approved the plan, they are supposed to affirm that there is an adequate plan for response. The EPA did approve the plan, but clearly didn't have an adequate plan for the drinking water and never followed through. So there you have Puerto Rico. And obviously we know there's a million other things wrong with the way that our country responded and is still failing to respond to Puerto Rico. And now this is besides this a different fact, but suicide rate in Puerto Rico is now higher than ever because of everything that they've been through. Literally at this point, there's so much despair that people are killing themselves, statistically much higher than ever. And that is in direct response to the devastation that has happened there and the United States' lack of helping the people in need. So, and it wasn't just, now this coin is not just commemorating their excellence and how EPA responded in Puerto Rico, but also commemorating the excellence and how the EPA responded in all natural disasters in 2017. So that's including Texas. Now, here's a fact about what happened in Houston. When Hurricane Harvey caused massive, unprecedented flooding, the San Jacinto River paste pits Superfund site. So again, another Superfund site was damaged and began leaking wastes. And the EPA had initially declared it safe. So the Superfund site in Texas was flooded and damaged and leaking these toxic wastes into the soil and the water that was going to the residents of the surrounding areas. And the EPA went in there and knew this was happening, and they said it was safe. This is coming from Neil Carmen, a former Texas environmental official who now works for the Sierra Club, said, They didn't want to make public how bad the situation was. It's a complicated situation, but I can't believe that they are giving awards to people for this. It's kind of disgusting to me, because the huge concern is that a lot of material escaped, and flooding carried the dioxide and dioxin to people's yards, where it still remains. So the EPA is actually spending money on making these coins. Granted, it's not a lot, but it doesn't matter. So not only are they congratulating themselves for a job well done, which they didn't do a good job at all, and they're still failing to take care of the problems that are currently happening because of these natural disasters, but they're actually spending money on making these coins. And these problems in Puerto Rico and in Texas, they still exist. And no one's putting any money into them. In fact, the EPA is trying to cover up everything. And they are successfully doing it. You don't see this on the news. No one knows about this except for the residents of Texas, how many of them actually know that these dioxins are now in their soil and in their drinking water? And what down the line will this look like? I can tell you what it will look like, because we have the same problem in Buffalo. It will look like a massive outbreak of autoimmune diseases in adults and children. It will look like birth defects. It will look like stillborns. It will look like cancer. It will look like sickness. And they're letting it go. And then they're congratulating themselves for it. So that's why we fight every day. That's why we fight.